In this video, I'm going to give you 4 players that upgraded their fantasy football stock. I'm Anthony Cervino of RotoWire.com. We're going to start with Saquon Barkley. Barkley is going as the 11th player off the board using FFPC ADP as of right now. Saquon Barkley, we know what this guy could bring to the table. In his career, he has popped as one of the best running backs in fantasy football, despite playing on one of the worst offenses in the NFL perennially. However, there's a new show in town now that Saquon Barkley heads down Route 95 and is now playing for the Philadelphia Eagles. Let's check off a few of the boxes. Upgraded offensive line, upgraded offensive scenario altogether from play caller and Kellen Moore, quarterback Jalen Hurts, and supporting cast with guys like Dallas Goedert at tight end, A.J. Brown, and Devonta Smith at wide receiver. Other running backs in the past, guys like DeAndre Swift last year, he looked pretty good in this offense. Let's insert Saquon Barkley here, who's by far the best running back that Jalen Hurts will ever line up with in the same backfield. And it is not close. Now, what does Saquon get to benefit from outside of the supporting cast upgraded offensive line? Well, there's also now a threat of the RPO. Daniel Jones, solid running quarterback, but Jalen Hurts is light years ahead of Daniel Jones when it comes to being a weapon with his legs. He's also an exceptional weapon with his arm. So if we look at Saquon Barkley past few years, well, 2022, RB5 in fantasy points per game. Last year, RB9 in fantasy points per game. I made this comp, and I'll make it again, and I'll keep making it because I truly believe it. The ceiling for Saquon Barkley, he could potentially have the same type of season that Christian McCaffrey has had when he was traded from Carolina to the San Francisco 49ers. I'll say it again. The ceiling for Saquon Barkley, who we can get in the second round of most fantasy drafts, could potentially break fantasy football and finish as the overall RB1 in PPR leagues. My next player who upgraded his fantasy football stock after free agency, Derrick Henry, another running back, another big-time running back, and you can get him right around pick 22 using FFPC ADP. And Derrick Henry last year, he was the RB16 in fantasy points per game. He was the RB8 overall in PPR. That was a bad year for Derrick Henry. Now, we know that Derrick Henry is 30 years old. He's going to turn 31 this year. But last year, he was still an exceptional running back. It doesn't look like he's on the decline. Number 2 in rushing yards. He was also number 2 in breakaway runs. Number 9 in evaded tackles. He still can get it done when he hits that second level. Well, why did he have a down year? He was conceded touches to Tajay Spears. He was also running behind one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL with Tennessee. And oh, by the way, Tennessee had absolutely zero semblance of a respectable passing game. So when Henry was on the field, the enemy defense, hey, let's take Derrick Henry out. Let's get off the field and give the ball back to our offense. It was that easy most of the time. All that being said, still, Derrick Henry rushed for 12 touchdowns. In Baltimore, this is a big-time upgrade for Derrick Henry. Now, let's face the facts. The Ravens normally have a really good offensive line. They lost a few key pieces, so that is a downgrade. So why do I love Henry? Well, he gets to line up in the same backfield as Lamar Jackson. And there's now the threat of the RPO, something Derrick Henry never had that advantage while he was being an elite running back in this league. Derrick Henry in Baltimore, I project him as right around a 1,300-yard rusher. He rushed for 1,167 last year. I believe Derrick Henry gets at least 10 touchdowns. He's had at least 10 in 3 straight seasons. Baltimore running backs before Henry, playing in an offense with Lamar Jackson, guys like Gus Edwards, up to last year, a career 5-yard per carry rusher. Derrick Henry, who last year rushed for 4.2 yards per carry, ties for career low. I believe he becomes, once again, one of the more efficient power backs in the NFL. I'm all in on Derrick Henry. Let's go to my next fantasy football player who upgraded his stock after free agency, Marquise Brown, new Kansas City Chief. Marquise Brown, very, very solid fantasy player, but he's never really reached his ceiling. And he's played with good quarterbacks like Lamar Jackson and Kyler Murray. People like to throw around, they're very, very good, and they are very good. But they're weapons with their legs, but they could use some polish as passers. Now Hollywood Brown goes to the best passer of the football that not only he's ever played with during his career in the NFL, but probably the best passer of the football in the game to date, Patrick Mahomes. Marquise Brown is probably going to inherit that big play role that was vacated by Tyreek Hill. And I'm not saying that Hollywood Brown is going to put up Tyreek Hill numbers. Tyreek Hill put up Tyreek Hill numbers because he's another level of a football player with his speed. But we know Hollywood Brown brings speed to the table. Coming out of college, 99th percentile. And this guy's still only 27 years old. He's one of the big play threats, one of the best big play threats in the league. Last year, he was 21st amongst wide receivers in deep targets in 14 games, playing on an offense where, Kyler Murray, he was banged up a lot. So Marquise Brown in this situation, I think there is some untapped ceiling that we could have. And something else I love about Marquise Brown, if Rashee Rice misses time, Marquise Brown is a locked and loaded wide receiver one. Not saying the wide receiver one overall, but if Rashee Rice misses time, I believe Hollywood Brown has weekly wide receiver one finish upside each and every game he steps on the field in this offense. And a player like this, Hollywood Brown, FFPC ADP right now, 70.4. Let's go to my final player who upgraded his fantasy football stock after free agency. And we're going to go deep here. That's Darnell Mooney. I absolutely love Darnell Mooney. Let's go back to his one big year in 2021. Wide receiver, 27 in fantasy points per game, 1,055 yards receiving, 4 receiving touchdowns, 81 receptions on the 140 targets. What do we know? Well, we know that Darnell Mooney can handle volume. We know he's an exceptional deep ball, speedy player who can take the top off of a defense. We also know that Darnell Mooney, since that big year, has suffered due to subpar quarterback play, not the greatest offensive system. So why do I love Darnell Mooney? Well, let's throw him to the Atlanta Falcons, where he is now not the second pass-catching option, probably the third. Because the Atlanta Falcons, when you have Drake London and Kyle Pitts, Darnell Mooney, he's going to get the nickel corner. And when Darnell Mooney in his speed, which was 95th percentile coming out of college, gets a nickel corner, he's going to burn him. Now, Darnell Mooney also gets the benefit of Zach Robinson and his offensive system. He also gets the benefit of Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins is one of the more accurate passers in the NFL, especially as a deep ball passer. And that's where I believe Darnell Mooney is going to do his most damage. He's going to be efficient. He's not going to get a lot of targets, right? But he's going to be efficient with the targets that are coming to him because of who is throwing him the football and the aforementioned mismatches. Darnell Mooney right now, talk about a steal at cost. His ADP, 170.6. He has a shot to really shatter his price point, which makes him one of the best values in fantasy football.